Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be covering the Lightspeed tokens that have been added with this new update into Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. We're going to talk about why they feel really underwhelming. So far there are only 2 available tokens that were released into the game. There was one of the Bronzium tier, which was released onto the free part of the episode pass, and then there was a Chromium one, which was released to the paid part of the episode pass. We're going to talk about why many players feel this is underwhelming. We're going to talk about how I think the best way to use these resources is, where else they could go available, kind of go through the characters that they're going to be applicable for. They've said they're available for smugglers and pirates, so we'll kind of cover all that. But I do want to make sure you guys understand something. Them feeling underwhelming, them not being readily, crazily available right away is a good move from Capital Games, and we're going to talk about all of that. So go ahead, please like and subscribe, comment down below. I want to give a shout out to my channel members, as always, for their continued support. If you guys are ever interested, that link is down below, along with a link to Discord. Go check it out. Really appreciate everything that you guys do. You guys are a huge part of this community, and I love that you're a part of the Fat family. Without you, this channel isn't possible. So thank these folks. Let's get in here and let's talk about these Lightspeed tokens.
My name
so
is
the first thing I want to be very clear
and
about,
I
the first thing that I think is really
this
important to
message.
understand, is they were added to the 50th level
Phil,
of the episode
what
pass,
did I
which
approve
replaced some of
exactly?
the currency that
Phil.
we used to get at this level. However, that currency has been added to the earlier aspects of the pass, whether you're on the free track or the paid track. So this is literally free rewards. There was nothing that was replaced. There was nothing that was taken away. They added rewards to you. So right away, that's a positive sign. Nothing was taken away. If you don't believe me, there is somebody who has done the math and fully endorses the fact that those are free rewards and did not replace anything inside of this episode pass, whether on the free or paid track.
My name is Egnards, and I approve this message. Hey, Phil, what did I approve exactly? Phil.
There you guys have it. Egnards fully endorses that these did not take any place of anything else. But as we always say, in all seriousness, they are free new rewards. Now, what I'd like to do is actually get to the, we're going to go to the screen capture here, and I'm going to just quickly, briefly go over again what these are. So in the Carbonite level, it is, again, the biggest thing to worry about here is the star level and the gear level. 3 stars, gear 10. The Bronzium level, which is on the episode pass, 4 stars, gear 12. Chromium level, 5 stars, relic 1. The Erodium tier is 6 stars, relic 3. And the Kyber tier is 7 star, relic 5. Those are the big things you just want to be paying attention to. In my personal opinion, for most of the player base, the way you're going to want to use these in general, right? If I'm going to generalize, your Carbonite and Bronzium, you're not getting a lot of shards. They're only going to 3 star. They're only going to 4 star. So here, you want to prioritize characters that are heavy on Kyrotech. You want to prioritize the heavy Kyrotech characters because that's where you're going to make your, I want to say make your money, but that's where you're going to be able to really get the use out of these things. The more Kyrotech on the character, the better. That's where I'm using the Carbonite. That's where I'm using the Bronzium tiers. The Relic 1 tier is the first one. The Chromium tier is where I'd argue there's a little bit of leeway here. I could understand the idea of still spending that on a heavy Kyrotech character because you're not saving any signal data here. But you are saving relic materials, and relic materials are obviously super important, right? Or that you're saving the gear 13 gear. So in this Chromium tier, I could argue that you go for heavy Kyrotech characters. I could also argue that you just use it for Galactic Legend requirements, and that way you don't have to spend the gear 13 gear. Either one, I think I'm okay with. I can see both sides. The Erodium tier and the Kyber tier. Those ones I would argue you want to spend on Galactic Legend requirements because they're going to save you some signal data. They're going to save you relic materials, which are, going to be in high priority. Obviously, if you can prioritize using them on higher Kyrotech characters, that's also a plus. The one thing I will note here, the star counts are important. If there is a character that is lower on stars and you have a Kyber token that's for a Galactic Legend requirement, if they don't have Kyrotech, but you have them at, say, Relic 3, and you can bring them to, or you have them at 7 star, and you can bring them, or 3 star, sorry, gosh, I can't talk today. If you have them at 3 star, and you can take them to 7 star, that is also huge. So that I'd say particularly with that Kyber one, there is some, a different way to use it that it's very flexible in that you could go with all right, your Kyratex and I want your Relic 5, or I really want your stars. Because again, the stars is big there, particularly for some of the units that are a little bit more challenging to come by. Now remember, these initial ones are only going to be available for smugglers and separatists at the start. And if we flip back over into the game now, the ones that we have available now are only for smugglers. So it is only the smugglers so far that you can use these for. As I said earlier, they feel a little bit underwhelming. A lot of us were expecting to see more of them. And if you look, there's no other places. They're not even in any stores yet. They're not in any packs. They're only available on the episode track. I actually think this is a really positive move by Capital Games. If you remember back to when they released the Lightspeed bundles and you think about the Kylo bundle and the Rey bundle, they kind of were standing on the top of a diving board, if you will. They put their arms behind their back and they just dove in head first. They dove in with reckless abandon. They went right into Lightspeed bundles with the best. The Rey and the Kylo bundles, in my opinion, are still the two best dollar value to character return that we've gotten yet. They also released Starkiller right away, which, while a bit pricier, it is all Kyratech characters who are all very good. And Starkiller, obviously a very fantastic character inside of Grand Arena. So those early bundles really, really were powerful in regards to the cost and the return. There's very few bundles that have been released since with the kind of value that the Kylo and Rey bundles had in regard to value and, again, what they gave you. Since then, every bundle has kind of gotten, less valuable comparative to those ones, but they've kind of right-sized the market, I would say, and have understood what they do and don't want to sell characters for. And I think with these Lightspeed tokens, that's what they're doing this time. They're looking at these and saying, okay, we don't want this to be something that everybody's got 5 Kyber ones and 4 Erodium and 8 Chromium. They want to ease into it. They're kind of going up to that diving board, kind of, sitting on the ledge of it, and they're just going to shimmy their way off and go feet first. Right? They just want to, hey, do I like this? Is this the right way? And I think this will right-size the market. So I do really like that. And for players who are complaining, saying, oh, we should have got more, I mean, let's be honest here. For the smugglers, and again, we'll go into the smugglers here in a sec, but you're getting it at the Gear 12. So this is going to take you from, Gear 0 to Gear 12, right? Gear 1 to Gear 12 here. Depending on the character that you choose, which there are plenty of smugglers that are this way, that is 300 Kyratech. That is 300 Kyratech that you are going to be able to skip, get ahead on. That's huge. So if you're on that free track and you're looking at that, that is 300 Kyratech right there. 300 additional Kyratech right here with this Gear 12 one. Yes, that is massive. For a lot of you where Kyratechs are a big problem, getting one of these every single month, just again, think about this. Even just 12 times a year to make it easy. Once a month, 12 times a year, you're getting one of these passes. That is 3,600 Kyratech if you use the Bronzium tier on a character that needs the Kyratech. Obviously, maybe not all of them are going to be for factions that have a heavier Kyratech character, but even still, you're probably going to be able to get well over 2,000 Kyratech without breaking a sweat just from this Bronzium Lightspeed token. That is huge. And if you're buying the episode pass, you again could turn that into 600 Kyratech plus some Gear 13 gear, depending on your needs. I mean, what's not to love? And while the breakdown cost, going back over to the screen capture here, the breakdown cost for these things is not fantastic. I actually think it's a good thing that it's not this crazy amount of signal data and other materials that you're getting from these tiers. They're not designed for players like myself and Egnards to take advantage of. They are designed for players in the mid-game to be able to catch up to us because we already have most of these things at those applicable levels. So I gotta say, when you look at it from that perspective, I do think that the way they've released them is good. They're going to try and figure out where they go. Now, they did say they would eventually reach stores. They did say they would eventually reach different rewards. I would say that from a reward standpoint, I would not expect them in, say, Smuggler's Run 3, because they're going to want to gauge the Smugglers Run 3 rewards based on people who can get Hondo, and the majority of that crowd will be those of us in the end game where they're not as valuable. But I could see them going into maybe some stores like the Galactic Legend tokens. I could 100% see them going in here, again, where it's a decision for players. I think the one thing they're going to do with these is make it a decision that you're going to have to sacrifice something else in order to get them. Another area would maybe be Guild Event Currency 3. I could 100% see them being added for Guild Event Currency 3. And another one would be Mark 3 Raid Currency. Again, another one I think that they would put them in there for. Again, stores where you are going to have to make some level of sacrifice, but it could still be worth it depending on your character needs. I think a lot of us were also expecting them in the episode store. That could also come to fruition. I'm just not sure what that price point would or wouldn't be, so we will have to wait and see on all of that. And then, of course, you can expect that they will release them in packs. They will release them for a lot of those things because, again, that's the way that CG does things, right? Yeah, they're always going to be available inside of packs. Now, guys, with that said, let's talk about how I would recommend using these things with the characters that are released in these factions. So, we're going to start here with the Smuggler faction, right? Again, the ones that are in-game. The first characters I'd be looking at are your Kyrotech requirements. The characters, if you have, say, the Kyber ones, right? You're looking at your Kyrotech requirements, the Skiffguard Lando, Dash Rendar, Sonastaros, Hondo, Onaka. That would be the way that I would prioritize these things. For the next grouping, for if you had a Kyber one or even a Chromium one, you could kind of look at Veteran Smuggler, Han, or Chewbacca if you don't already have them, as they are Galactic Legend requirements, although they don't take Kyrotech. Now, one of the big ones that I think is actually really going to help you is Zori Bliss. She is a very useful character who takes Kyrotech. If you don't already have Zori Bliss at relic levels, you don't already have Zori Bliss there, or you don't have a lot of gear on her, she's going to be a fantastic option for that free, Lightspeed token if you have Galactic Legends, Ray, and Resistance. That's going to be a really good one to be able to help you out. Similarly, again, any one of those requirements, if you don't have one of these characters, another really good way to save yourself 300 Kyrotech. Otherwise, when I look at these and you're kind of thinking through them, you've got your characters that are still useful in various game modes, but they don't take Kyrotech, so you could kind of go with this group of characters. Again, this is all depending on where the Kyber ones or where the Erodium ones, if you were to get them, this is kind of the order that I would place them in. But again, for that Gear 12 kind, I'm looking at only at like the Zoris and this crew. Now, if you're like me, I'm going to get two of them, and the only two characters I can use them on are Kira and Young Han, so hey, that's where they're going to go. But I would kind of put them in the special use category where they both have a special mission in territory battles. Young Lando has an extra combat mission, but that combat mission not nearly as important as some extra Guild Event Currency 3, in my personal opinion. The only reason I have this guy Relic 6 is from my wave battle with Egnards. I still hate you for that I had to, go to that level and still lose. I hate you. Anyway, this is kind of the way I would be going through that, right? When you think about the signal data kind, you're going for your GL Rex, but, or just any kind of requirements, whether it's Galactic Legend, non-GL. But when you think about the ones that are really for that gear, the Gear 12, the Gear 10, you want to go for the characters that take Kyrotech, and that's going to allow you to catch up to those of us in the end game a lot faster. So that's kind of how I would go with your smugglers. And then again, just remember, your Galactic Legends, Journey Guide characters, TB characters, Raid characters, they are all ineligible for these tokens, so you can't use them here. Something to bear in mind, that don't be saving that thinking you're going to be able to do something else. All right. Now, Separatists. Now, they are not actively released yet in the game, but I did at least want to share the order that I would go in. So you've got Dooku, Nute Gunray, Jango Fett, Grievous, Asajj, and Magna Guard. Again, you've got plenty of options there that you could potentially use them on that are all Galactic Legend requirements if you don't already have them at the specific, gear level, relic level that the token would afford you. Those are all solid options. For me personally, my account, what I would find beneficial would be B2 Super Battle Droid and the Stap. As B2, I could use with my Dr. Aphra. Stap is a heavy Kyrotech character and just someone who I would eventually like to get to relic levels simply because, kind of give me another team for Grand Arena. There are some good things that Datacron can do. Then I would kind of look at my Geonosian pilots. I'm not saying I would go crazy here only because I don't really use this fleet a lot, but pilots would be another really solid option for this stuff, boost your galactic power. And then you've kind of got the all other category where it's like, all right, you've got these guys, you've got some other ones down here that you could maybe use it on if you need to. But our GOATs, Wat Tambor, and the best Grand Arena team, just kidding. But Admiral Trench, I love Trench, you guys know that, we love Trench, but he's also ineligible as you cannot use them on conquest units and again the territory battle characters. So guys, this is kind of how I am looking at the way I would use them. Again, kind of replacing Kyrotechs where you can, and then otherwise kind of helping you with your Galactic Legend requirements when those Kyber and Rhodium ones eventually come into the game. That would be really good. I think that will allow you to move through this game a lot faster. I think the mistake that will be made is people will look at this and they'll say, well, I'm going to use the Relic 1 on, say, Enfys Nest, and, because I need her for the raid, or, but the thing with Enfys Nest is she doesn't take any Kyrotech until Gear 13. Whereas Hondo, Sana, Dash, Skiffguard, Lando, Zori, they take Kyrotech long before that. You're going to save a lot more gear and get a lot more value when you're picking characters who do need Kyrotech. That would, in my opinion, that is the biggest priority. If you take nothing else away from this, focus on the Kyrotech intensive characters first, and I think you'll be a lot better off. And again, just to reiterate, just to kind of, close this up, I do think that we are going to see more of these. I do think that they will put them in stores and other areas. I'm going to tell you right now that the way they are on the episode pass is okay. Maybe they look and give us a little bit more, but even if it stays like this, it's still a solid change because it's free. It didn't replace any rewards. It's just right there for you to get extra every single month. This is 12 Gear 12 characters a year. That's a lot. That is a lot of extra gear that you're not going to have to get, and especially if you're using them for Kyrotech characters, it's even better. If you're buying the episode pass, you are looking at skipping a hell of a lot more. So I do really like this. But yeah, folks, while it does feel underwhelming, if they did go in and add a whole bunch of these things into the paid track, in the free track, you'd feel really upset. And, if they added a bunch of them in the free track, you'd be like, well, why am I buying the episode pass when they have all these in the free track? Like, I think they're trying to feel out what the right amount of these is to give out. And I think that's a good thing for once. I think they're trying to ease into this, trying to set the market right. So that way you're getting them at a cadence that you still feel they're useful while not overwhelming you. Because I think they're probably tired, just like a lot of content creators are, of hearing players complain that you don't have Zetas because you purchased 86,353 Lightspeed bundles. I get it. The Lightspeed bundles were great. I think this is going to be a welcome change for players who maybe don't want to spend their money, that they're still going to be able to make some progress. That's the end of the video, folks. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.